Hello guys, today we will discuss the works of Chaucer, his poetry and the most important work, the Canterbury Tales, and we will look how the foreign influence has affected his writing, and at the same time we will discuss the life of Chaucer. So Chaucer was the son of uh, a wine merchant, so which is fortunate enough because at that time medieval society was divided into three parts: the church, the aristocratics, and the peasants. So he was fortunate that he was born in the merchant family, which gave him chance to learn more about people, and he got education. So at the same time, due to occupation of his father, he met different people from different countries, which enhances his language. He learned Latin, French. So at the same time, when Chaucer came to his professional occupation age, so he worked at King Edward III, which was king at the time, and he became the member of the King's Edward personal household, and took part in several diplomatic missions to Spain in 1330. Say 1366, and France in 1368, and Italy. So these were the events which showed this young man a new world, a new perspective to see the world. So Chaucer served as a justice of the peace and a knight of shire, and he worked as a clerk to the king's works. He took all the things in his account uh, in the court. So he was uh, at the same time he was writing poetry at the court, aside from his professional work. So that what makes him a father of English poetry. So the diplomatic mission that sent Chaucer to Italy was considered as a step which enhances his literary development. So Italy at that time was considered as a center of learning, and at the same time, the famous writers like Francisco Petrarch and Dante and Boccaccio was alive at that time on his visit. So it is obvious that these writers provided him with the models of new verse form, new subject matters, and new modes of presentation. For example, his work, The House of Fame, is a dream vision text, which takes the poet on a journey, so in which he explains and discuss the things which he has seen in the dream. So these were the writers, these were the models which gave him new subjects, because at that time Italy had a many uh, it is considered as a center of learning, and there was writers, there were painters, there were artisans. So this is how the foreign influence had uh, an influence on his writing. So we will discuss other writers. Early works of Chaucer had the influence of these foreign writers. Chaucer adopted their style in his writing, and it was common at that time. Writer often followed and borrowed plots from other writers and just make a few changes. So Dante was a poet, a famous poet in Italy, who wrote Divine Comedy. So these both writers, they have one thing in common. After his death, Dante, many have followed his writing style, and one thing which was common is that Dante often uses the journey to express his works in Divine Comedy, to introduce the character he meets at, and in the same way, the Canterbury Tales is a journey, is a pilgrimage on which Chaucer introduced different characters, different characters of society. So in this way, so then the style of Dante is followed by the Canterbury Tales, and at the same time, there is another famous writer, Francisco Petrarch, which is known as Petrarchan Sonnet, which played the part in the Shakespearean, which fashioned the Shakespearean poet. And at the same time, Chaucer was the first person who watched these poems very closely. and this his style, his perspective of sonnet has changed the vision of Chaucer. So Franciscan Petrarch sonnet is about something which is unattainable. They have compared love with a star, and if we analyze the Chaucer's perspective about love, if we analyze his poem, so he thinks about love as a mysterious thing. So another writer, Boccaccio, who provided sources for two of Chaucer's first poem, although Chaucer never mentions his name. The Knight's Tale uh, is his derivation from Boccaccio romances, which is Ticitia, the story of how Trojan prince of Troilus loved and finally lost Creside to the uh, Greek warrior. So all these accounts are evident that his earlier writing, his derivation, like his famous poem Troilus and Cressida, is derived from Boccaccio second uh, Filistero, which is the poem The Love is Stricken. So every work, his early writings is derived or at least has followed the style of another writer. So Chaucer's early work, and one of them was the Book of the Duchess, uh, which is an elegy in the form of dream, and he wrote that elegy for the loss of John's wives. John was a knight and who was a fourth son of Edward the Third, and he wrote this elegy on the second anniversary of his death. And in the Book of the Duchess, he has characterized uh, her wife as uncommonly beautiful, and John, her husband, described her wife as the being the love of his life, and his devotion is reflected in Chaucer's portrayal of this poem. The Book of the Duchess details the despair John felt as the night as he lost his wife. He was going through sadness, sorrow, and he was going through insomnia that he will soon die. Although, with the help of this elegiac poem, Chaucer showed his own sorrows, his own uh, inner desired. So uh, it was believed that he was also suffering from these sorrows, and uh, he one says that he was in seeking the physician. There wasn't any physician. The physician here mean who can heal him. In medieval time, women in the medieval poetry were often referred to as a physician in the sense that they could emotionally heal a man who was in love with them by returning their love. The narration suggests that he and his physician are done, implies that woman whom he loved has left him in some form, as in the Book of the Duchess, the wife of Knight has left him. So same this all the characters of the Chaucer depicts any typical character of society. In this book, the Duchess, uh, narrator select to read detail of the story of a Greek myth, which is both in which both lovers die. So the knight, another character, which also depict a character, a kind of who's brave and who went on adventures. So this book of the Duchess also reveals the undesired, underlying desire of Chaucer. So he was in search of woman and who can heal her sorrows. So at the same time, we can see the influence of the Petrarchan sonnet. So in which the historical context of the Parliament of the Fowls is connected with the Scipio African the Elder, who was a role model for life, to spend life, and Chaucer uh, for Chaucer wants to follow him, and he was an expert in the eyes of Chaucer. So he was a military leader who never lost a battle. So in this Parliament of the Fowls, the narrator, who is Chaucer, is is in a dilemma that he is not understanding the life, the events which are happening around him, which is of course the mystery of love. So in his dream, he is visited by this Scipio, the elder, who guides him and who guides the narrator, which is Chaucer, and he take him to the gates of the garden, and in which the goddesses of love are there, and he visits there and he sees the beauty there, and so he understands the love, what is a love in true meaning. So this is about the Parliament of the Fowls, which is actually he was not understanding love himself, as in Petrarchan sonnet, that love is unattainable like in a star or ships that are not in the control, so it's impossible to find a true love or to understand what is actually love. The legend of good women, as the title suggests, Chaucer has portrayed women as a protagonist and the victim of their love. He has shown the women uh, that they are devoting their whole life for their love, and they are not getting the love back. So he has discussed the stories of nine legends, in which one of them was Greek story about media. So they suffer a lot, they were mistreated. So this legend of good morrow is all about, and in this men are shown as the tall men who torture their women and who do not love, who ignore their devotion, their love. So this is all about the legend of good women. House of the Fam is a dream, is a poem written by Chaucer, in which he visits the palace of the Greek god. There is a House of Fame. House of Fame means that there he is introduced to different persons like Alexander the Great and different uh, uh, legends who have lived the life, and they have got reputation, respectively, the deeds they performed in the world. And at the same time, if we analyze his works, his early works, these so far we have discussed, the subject matters are different from the vernacular. They are talking about Greek gods. He is using the technique of Greek, and the subject is different. He is following his subjects uh, are those uh, these foreign writers said. He is just adopting those subjects, those subject matters, those techniques in his writing. We analyze the Chaucer's poetry, if we extract a theme, he uses poetry as a memorial. It's the book of the Duchess he wrote for the knight as he lost his wife. So at the same time, he has portrayed women as a powerful uh, in the good religion women. He has shown that women are the victim and uh, men are the torment who torture their wives, and they do not understand their devotion. And at the same time, the Parliament of Fowls, in which he didn't understand the love. Love is mystery. So as uh, so their themes are the same as their subject matters. Uh, as he was following these Italian writers, these Greek writers, so their themes and subject matters are the same. As Petrarchan didn't understand the love, for him, the love is unattainable. So for Chaucer, he thinks that love is a mystery. So he's visited by the uh, a person who took him to that Greek goddess of love, which is Artemis. So these are the themes in Chaucer's poetry and often found in his early works. Tales are the most famous work of Chaucer is known for. If we talk about the context of these Canterbury Tales, at that time medieval society was divided into three states: the church, the aristocratic and the peasant. So these three institute was not playing their role in a right manner. So this gave a birth to to give rise to middle class. So as the merchant were rising, so in this Canterbury Tales, he satires all those institutes by depicting the different characters, and we will discuss those characters. So this Canterbury Tales is a pilgrimage on which a group of people they are going to pilgrimage, and in this pilgrimage there are all different participants who has participated in this pilgrimage, and they belong to different status to the society. And this Joseph, before this pilgrimage starts, he introduced those characters in detail. He explained their traits, and he defined in detail their traits and their role in the society. Characters in the general prologue. The first character is the knight. The knight, uh, Chaucer has depicted or portrayed a knight as a virtuous, brave, who is expected to follow the chivalry, and chivalry means the manners, and he is a person who has gone to many wars, who has seen many countries, and another famous about this knight was a courtly love. In the medieval concept of expressing admiration and love in a noble, uh, and this type of love exists outside marriage. True courtly love exists on a spiritual idealized plane and does not need to be physically uh, connection. The Knight's Tale centers on the courtly love. The two knights compete for the hand of a fair maiden. In the general prologue, the host description of Squire, a young knight has all the trapping of a traditional courtly lover. He wears a fancy clothes, takes care of his appearance, writes music, and dances, and is so passionate in his love that he can't even sleep. So, if you look at these characters so close, so uh, Chaucer is explaining this character, the typical character. He is defining the if we analyze the character of Squire, so he is portraying the bachelors who has lust, and they are just sort after the girls. So a knight is a these characters are the typical identification of the knight, and cleric who at that time who is suffering, like he's trying so hard to manage how to math, and so these all the characters are the depiction of the society, the people living at that time, and the different classes facing different problems. And the man of the law, here it defines the peasants who are struggling to climb to meet with their needs. So this is all about the Canterbury Tales. So basically it is a satire, and it depicts different uh, characters which appears to Chaucer. So how Chaucer perceive his society, how Chaucer understand his society, it is portrayed in the Canterbury Tales. So there were 124, but Chaucer only managed to give few of them.